There's nothing more frustrating than dumping thousands of dollars into your lead generation and not knowing whether you're profitable. It's even worse once you start receiving analytics and other reporting metrics and they all fail to answer the same question. But don't worry, because today I'm going to share with you my super simple and easy to understand scoreboard that will always give you a definitive response with only 2 elements. And these are your lead generation goals in comparison to your actual results. Welcome back to the channel, guys. My name is Ignacio Falco. I am a Google Ads partner and I've had the pleasure of generating over 100,000 leads in my career. And if you want to build your own lead generation machine, you need to start with a clear and measurable goal, but equally as important, you need to have a simple way to understand your results. Because imagine, how could you really achieve extraordinary goals if you have no idea what your performance is? And to help you achieve that, I'm going to give you a free, a paid, and a hybrid option that will always tell you what your marketing dollars are doing for you. And by extension, this will improve your lead generation efforts. So if you're a small business owner, my scoreboard will buy you a ton of time because I will protect you from all these complex marketing reports that expect you to digest all the data simply to come to the conclusion whether you're making money or not. With my scoreboard, you'll have a definitive response within a quick snapshot. And while I think it's okay to take a deep dive and truly understand your lead generation, if this is requiring minutes or even hours out of your day to simply understand your results, you're just not being efficient. All this while you still have to manage your company, you have to manage the other departments and your employees, you have to ensure you're offering amazing services, and at the end of the day, you still gotta go home and enjoy your family. And if you're a marketing manager, my scoreboard will create a win-win situation for you because it will allow your results to speak for themselves. And the more your results continue smashing the predetermined goals, the more you're demonstrating your worth. And whereas before you had to spend a ton of time in meetings talking about analytics and other reporting metrics, or even worse, justifying your lead generation strategy, your new meetings should only be about establishing new and more difficult goals. And the more you continue hitting those goals, the more you're demonstrating that you're clearly the person behind the company's growth. And trust me, not only you're increasing your value as the marketing manager, but your boss will also truly appreciate this because you're now growing the company and buying him time as well. And this is how you create a win-win situation. So before we get started, there's 3 things I want you to know. One of them is that I don't believe this is overly difficult, but it does require a certain level of attention while we go through the step-by-step. The second thing is that this also assumes that you're already measuring data in your website and that you're tracking conversions accurately. And lastly, while I think the paid option is the way to go, I also think that if you don't have the goal setting fundamentals that I will teach in the free option, then you're doing the paid option a disservice and you're not going to be able to use it to its full capacity. So just keep that in mind because goal setting and comparing them to the results is the entire purpose of the video. So if you're ready, let's go ahead and get into it. And just like that, we arrive at the free option. This is my own personal scoreboard, which I built using a tool named Google Looker Studio, formerly known as Google Data Studio. We'll take a look at the paid option in a second, but for now, can we just appreciate how simple this is? On one side, we're gonna have the goals, and on the right-hand side, we're gonna have the results. And this is why I love presenting my lead generation results in this fashion, because anybody can see this and quickly understand what's going on. We'll spend about a minute or so in each one of these metrics because I want you to understand how to arrive to your own numbers. But before we do that, I want you to understand that the goals on the left are fixed numbers, meaning that I wrote in the number 300 and the number 106, whereas the results are being fed dynamically, in my case, through Google Analytics 4, Google Ads, and Facebook Ads. So let's go ahead and quickly break down the board. On the top right hand side, you're gonna have your date control. That way you can travel back in time and observe whatever date range you want to look into. On the top left corner, we're going to write in our main objective, and in this case, it will be the amount of leads that we need in order to generate the amount of sales that we're seeking. And we're going to try to get here a little bit more programmatically as opposed to just guessing a random number. And in order to do that, we need to know our lead to sell rate. In the event that you already know this number, fantastic. Otherwise, it'll be very easy to determine. Just grab your overall number of sales and divide it by the amount of leads that you generated in order to get those sales. So in the event that it takes you 10 leads to generate one sale, now you have a 10% lead to sale rate. I would say the industry average, at least with the people that I work with, is anywhere from 25 to 45%, 45 being on the higher side, but we can always make another video about how to increase that number. For now, let's continue with this example and say that we're currently at 50 monthly sales, and in order to do that we need 200 leads. That means that we have a 25% lead to sale rate. Well, if we want to get to 75 sales per month, what we need to do is we need to get in excess of 100 leads, and therefore our goal will be 300 leads per month. One of the most important things is to invest some time establishing your lead generation goals. You don't want to just start a campaign without knowing exactly where you are today or where you would like to realistically be in the future. In my particular case, I love to put a guarantee in my lead generation goals. That being said, in order for me to sign off on that number, we need to create an entire lead generation system as opposed to just depend on one channel such as Google Ads or Facebook. So the takeaway here, independently of the guarantee or not, is that you need to have a goal and you need to get away from individual marketing tactics and create an entire lead generation system. Only you can determine how much you would like to pay for each lead, and that will become your cost per lead goal. However, I can at least help you by giving you some guardrails. And for that, I want you to keep a very important concept with you, which is knowing your break-even cost per lead. And this is not going to be a number we're going to write in the board, but it's at least an indication that if we pay anything above this number, we're going to be losing money. So look, the calculation is pretty straightforward. We're going to grab our sales price. If you don't have a fixed sales price, you can also do the average order value. And then we're going to subtract our operating expenses. And then you're going to grab this number and multiply it by the lead to sale rate. So in the event that your sales price is $2,000 and your operating expenses are $1,000, you're bringing home $1,000 net. You multiply that by the supposed 25% lead to sale rate that we discussed previously, and that tells you that you cannot pay anything over $250 for every lead. In fact, if you pay $251 for every lead, you're going to lose $4 from every sale. Because if you're bringing home $1,000 and it costs you $1,004 to generate 4 leads, then you're obviously in the red by $4. And again, the purpose of knowing this number is so you tell your marketing team not to go over this number when generating leads. And if anything, it'll help you determine a better cost per lead, because the farther down you're from this number, the more profitable you're going to be. This is the most important metric from the entire scoreboard. I'd argue the most important metric out of your entire lead generation efforts, because these are your actual results. And it's important to know that we accumulated all our conversions. In this case, we're recording them through GA4, so the actual name is key events. Key events sort of equals conversions. I'll explain that in a different video, but anyhow, we're grabbing all our conversions from all our sources, meaning paid advertising channels such as Google Ads and Facebook, our organic or SEO efforts, as well as our own channels, being our own customer database. So essentially, anybody that went to our website and either made a phone call or submitted a contact form is being accounted for in this 219. It's a little funny that on my own board and my own example, I'm about 81 leads down. Obviously the goal showing at 300 and the results showing at 219. I could assure you that this board's actual goal used to be 176, but for the purpose of demonstrating the example and on how to arrive to your goal, I used the number 300 because it was an even number and it allowed me to demonstrate that example a lot easier. Either way, even if I was 81 leads below, this is a good example of how the scoreboard gives the results very honest and transparent, as opposed to just essentially going to my client and surrounding him with a ton of different metrics and analytics that don't really answer the question whether we're winning or losing. So even if I was down, it's okay, because this is a very transparent and honest way to let your results speak for themselves. And look, that you're down is not necessarily the end of the world. It just means that you need to look for optimizations so you can finally arrive to your actual lead goal. And lastly, we arrive at our cost per lead results. Pretty straightforward. We're combining our entire marketing spend and we're dividing it by the total leads that we generated. In this case, we generated 219 leads for $80 each. I love having this metric in my scoreboard because in theory, anybody could generate 1,000 leads if you're spending $1 million each. I'm obviously being hyperbolic on that example, but my point is that one thing is generating leads and another thing is generating leads within the margin that will still make you profitable. Let's spend a couple minutes within the editing side of Google Looker Studio. And again, the goals to the left are numbers that we wrote in. So if I wanted to type 150, I just simply go in there and write it in. And the same goes for the 106. However, let's focus on the results because I want to show you how we're getting these numbers dynamically. And the first thing you want to do is go to the menu and connect your own data. In our case, we connected Google Analytics, Google Ads, and Facebook. If you were running whatever other platform, I can almost guarantee you're going to find a connection for that platform. Some options are going to be free, other options are going to be paid, but either way, just connect your data sources because that will give you your data automatically and calculate it into your results. Then I added a scorecard because that's what makes this number overly easy to read. I also added the date range control, so just drop that in here. And at last, while you have your scorecard, just click on the pencil icon and then make sure that you have the right data source connected here. In our case, we're using GA4 to look for our key event metrics. And that's how we got our 219 because our GA4 is already tracking key events. And if I show you that tab of Google Analytics, you're going to see in a second how we got there. And now that we're within GA4, I want to show you how we're pushing our live results onto our scoreboard. And to do so, we're essentially on the reports. Here we are, then engagement, and then events, and we're sending our key events. If we were just sending our events, it would be 38,000, but instead, we're only sending the unique web forms as well as the unique phone calls. And if we were to add 186 plus 33, we will get that 219. You can see there's other web forms here and phone calls. I'll show you the difference with those once I start covering the paid option. I think we're truly gonna appreciate it. But for now, let's just kind of stay high level. Other thing about Google Analytics is that I find it extremely helpful as a campaign manager and the lead generator. But when it comes time to discuss results, I prefer using my scoreboard 10 times out of 10 because it's extremely simple and we can all understand it within a second, whereas GA4 is a lot more complex. And lastly, this shows the importance of already having a tool like GA4 collecting website data and tracking conversions accurately. And if you did not have GA4 but you still wanted to send your conversions to the scoreboard, that way you can have some sort of lead count, you still could, right? At the end of the day, you can connect any other data source and push those results. So say you have Google Ads or perhaps Google plus Facebook, you can even blend your data and run a calculation here for your metrics. I would say you could do that, but at the end of the day, you're only going to tell the story of the paid advertising platforms. Whereas if you have everything within GA4, you're going to be able to account for paid, organic, and any other key events that are coming from any other source. To get the $80 cost per lead, I combined our Facebook and Google Ads spend, and then I divided it by the key events from GA4. To do so, I needed to create a new data blend, so just go to Resource and then Manage Blends, and that's going to give you a new data source, and this is what that looks like. Once you start blending data, you're going to create a table for each data source. In my case, I have GA4, and then I brought in the key events under metric, then I cross-joined that table with the next one, in this case being Google Ads, and again, I put the cost as the metric. And same thing again for Facebook. I cross-joined it, then I brought Meta Ads, and then I used the spend as the metric. And once you have those, just go ahead and save them. But that wasn't all. You still need your own formula under metric so you can come up with that calculation. And in this case, I'm grabbing Google Ads cost plus Facebook spend divided by key events, and that'll give me the $80 cost per lead. If you have different data sources than mine, this may look slightly different for you, but at the end of the day, this is why I'm giving you concepts. That way you can blend your own data, you can create your own custom formulas, and arrive at your own cost per lead results. And just like we cover free options with Google Looker Studio and GA4, I want to cover WhatConverts, which is a paid alternative, but it also has super simple and easy to understand reports, which is the entire purpose of this video. And it also has other features that, in my opinion, will vastly improve your lead generation results. I can also anecdotally tell you that my clients love WhatConverts, and I'll show you why in a second. But before that, I just want to quickly say that this is not going to be an end-to-end WhatConverts tutorial. I'm simply just going to show you how I use it with my client. But it has plenty of other features. Feel free to go to whatconverts.com and check them out. They also have plenty of resource videos so you can learn more about the tool. The other thing is that I just applied for their affiliate program. So in the event that you click on my link and you sign up, there's a chance I'll receive a financial incentive. If you wanted to look at alternatives that I'm not necessarily affiliated with, you can look at CallRail, which is very popular in the lead generation industry. And there's also call tracking metrics, which is a tool we used to use at the agency where I worked at for a few years, and it's a pretty good tool as well. But for now, let's just focus on WhatConverts, since this is what I actually use every day and I have access to my client's dashboard. And I'm pretty sure that if I were to cut off the video here, I would leave you with a pretty good impression, because just within a second we can see that it's super simple and easy to read. Before I take a dive into these numbers, let me just tell you a key distinction here. Although WhatConverts is a fantastic reporting tool, the most important thing is its ability to communicate continuously with the advertising platforms. Let me explain. In an era where the advertising platforms have evolved and they're relying less and less on keyword targeting, they're counting on you to feed them with better data intelligence. And WhatConverts lets you do just that. If you recall, in GA4, we were tracking events and key events. And sure enough, I think we all should track those events because we're much better off doing so than not. But at the end of the day, it's a much more limited way to communicate with these advertising platforms, because all we're doing is receiving a click, and then if that click takes a valuable action on our website, we get to tell that to the platforms. But that's not the entire customer journey. Whereas in WhatConverts, we can observe if that click became a lead and if that lead became a paying customer. And we get to pass all this information plus a ton of other data points to the platforms, and then in return these platforms go out there in the wild and they fetch for other customer profiles that match your ideal buyer persona, because after all, they became a paying client. Even if your sales are taking place on your CRM, you can still integrate your CRM with WhatConverts, and now you have end-to-end communication from your CRM to WhatConverts and the advertising platforms. And the end result is that you're no longer an advertiser that leans on keywords, you're also evolving and becoming a machine trainer. And with better machine learning also comes better performance. And this is why I swear by WhatConverts, because if you truly want to evolve as an advertiser and you want your lead generation campaigns to perform better over time and also be scalable, receiving, interpreting, and passing back data intelligence is the way to go. So in my opinion, WhatConverts is the future of lead generation. And now that we know some of the capabilities of WhatConverts, let's do a quick rundown through my client's dashboard. That way we get a better feel for it. And as you can see, we have 249 leads, but out of those, only 215 were quotable. 17 were not quotable. These are likely the repeat forms that we saw in GA4, or even a person that just reached out to not necessarily inquire about our services. They were either inquiring about something else, or maybe they were trying to sell us something. But the important thing to know is that our team is able to go lead by lead and deem whether that lead is a quotable lead or not, and also assign a value to it. And even better, if they become a paying client, we can also update the sales value, and that way we can push this information back to Google Ads. Additionally, we'll know a few other things about this client, obviously the information that they drop in the contact form, as well as their geolocation and a few other data points. We have 44 phone calls. You can even read the transcript if you wanted to, but otherwise you'll have access to listen to the actual call recording, which will also be great to train your sales team. We recorded the 205 form fills and 0 chats. This is actually great room for improvement for myself, because my client's website does have a chat widget and I'm not tracking it with WhatConverts, so I'm making note of this because I want to account for those leads as well. Per the total quote value, the 215 leads represented $900,000 in potential earnings, and out of those we closed $224,000 in actual deals. It'll be up to you to choose how you want to train your Google Ads algorithm, if you want to train it with your quotes or if you want to train it with your actual sales, which by default you're gonna have less quantity but more quality. Speaking of passing data, WhatConverts has a one-click integration to pass enhanced conversions to Google Ads. And finally, we arrive at the hybrid option, which is essentially integrating WhatConverts and Looker Studio. And if you're wondering why we're taking an extra step to integrate these two, I'll be the first one to say that I don't always do this. However, there are certain occasions in which this dashboard comes very handy. I'll give you an example. I have a client whose sales department is very large, and the director of sales doesn't necessarily want to give everybody access to WhatConverts, but he still wants his entire team to have a snapshot of their predetermined goals and compare it to their sales results. And this dashboard has proven to be very handy to them because as opposed to logging into WhatConverts and looking at the dashboard, anybody in the sales department can just click on the link and look at the view only option of this scoreboard. And to integrate WhatConverts and Looker Studio, honestly, it was super simple. You just go to add data, then you use their official connector. Now that WhatConverts is the source, I simply went to metric and I looked for the total sales value. There it is. And it pulled in the $220,000. And the same goes for the leads. Under metric, I look for quotable leads. Don't forget I'm dropping a link to my scoreboard. That way you can download it and get a head start as opposed to doing it from scratch. Just simply connect your own data sources, create your own formula if you need to create a formula, and you'll be good to go. And to understand how this scoreboard plays a role into your overall digital strategy, make sure to watch the next video because here we will teach you the 3 most important things for your lead generation in 2025.